Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of In the Crease. Boy, we've got a lot of things to talk about today. As always, my co-host Bob Nelson is with me. But, before we start, Bob, I've got to tip my hat and say kudos to Anson Carter, who is obviously watching this show, because the last 3 times he's been on air, he's been wearing hockey jerseys. Yeah. Now, I heard from my sources that the folks at Disney ESPN would not allow him to just wear the hockey jersey, so he still has to wear the shirt and tie underneath. So I wore my dress shirt underneath as a way of tipping the hat, saying, Anson, thanks for watching and picking up the garb, and it looks good on you, brother. Looks good. Keep up the fine job. Let's talk hockey.
Besides that, before we start talking hockey, let's wish this old guy beside me a happy birthday.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
How old are you now, like 80?
Yeah.
He's as old as how many points Crosby has in one season.
Listen, it's not the years. It's the mileage. Speaking of mileage, wow, has the Stadium Series really outrun its... before we get into the Stadium Series, I want to point a little something out here. Let's go football just for a moment. The Kansas City Chiefs play the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, and a rather dramatic overtime win for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a celebration parade in their hometown, and there is a shooting at the celebration. People are killed and people are injured. After all of that is over and done with, Lily Gladstone, who was an actress up for Best Actress of the Year on the Oscars coming up this week that we're taping.
Make sure you say act, not actress.
For The Killers of the Flower Moon, she comes out after all of this and says she finds the Chiefs' name and the tomahawk chop highly offensive because she's an Indian, of course. And I sat there and I thought, now you come up with this nonsense. Now let's jump to hockey. They play an outdoor game. It's in New Jersey. All right? One team gets off the bus, the Philadelphia Flyers, and they're all dressed like Rocky Balboa. The other team gets off the bus, and they're all dressed like the Sopranos. Where's my outrage? How come I don't find that offensive? What are you trying to say about Jersey and Italians? They all come out, and everybody laughs about it. So it's okay with the Italians, but don't make fun of the Indians. Hey, I ain't going to say it. All right, I did my piece.
I thought it was a good touch. I thought it was showing respect to your culture and heritage.
Actually, I enjoyed it very much, too. I'm not one of those.
You know what the worst part about it was? That was as good as the games.
Yes, you're better. You're right. All right, so let's talk about the Stadium Series. There have been some games played, and wow. You've changed your mind, haven't you? I remember in the green room before we came on, you said, boy, I've changed my mind. This Stadium Series got to stay.
No. This is getting past old. I mean, again, I hate to harp on this, but let's make this a celebration of hockey. Let's not, it's just unfair for the team to have to play in it. I don't care how much money you're making off of this. You're really not. Because, again, the Winter Classic, the Vegas and the Krakens, their shirts went on clearance the day after the game. That's how bad those shirts were.
Yeah.
Because I was going to buy them just because I collect jerseys, and they went from $150 for the replicas down to $75 day after the game. Are you kidding me? Are you gouging hockey fans? Because everyone knows that the true hockey fan can't not experience to go to the game anymore because the NHL priced us, the hockey fan, out of going to the game.
They did.
Unless you have season tickets and you want to mortgage your future to eat hot dogs during hockey season instead of steak, you got to give up a lot to have tickets now.
Yeah, you do.
And most of these arenas, they hold 18 to 20,000. And this was a first or second year that the Penguins. their sellout streak went out the back door.
Yeah.
And how many people want? And it's a bad seat.
Yeah.
I've been to a few of them. It's a bad seat, no matter where you're sitting, unless you're on that bench or in the penalty box. It's a bad seat.
I went to one outdoor stadium game that I can actually say I was running a camera for the broadcast, so I was down at the one net thing, and that was great.
Yeah.
But the nearest fan,
Yeah.
way back there.
Yeah, and the good seats, you got to be all the way up top, and you better have your readers or binoculars because you're not seeing that puck. I don't care how good your sight is.
Yeah.
I don't care how many carrots you eat. You're not just. I mean, what do they do? And it's hard to televise that game
Yeah.
because they try to put the rink on an angle, and you guys know is better than I do. I don't know these camera tech, but like the only way you could have a good game is you'd have to have a drone there.
Yeah.
You know,
a drone would work. Yeah.
You know, and other than that, I don't know what Benton's doing.
And for an outdoor game especially, guys will be shooting at that drone.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, warm-ups and
There'd be a lot of odds on that.
but the problem is, the only game out of the three that we saw was the last game. Was a pretty exciting game, but it's still uneven playing field because you have weather to contend with.
Yeah.
And what if one of these teams don't make the playoffs because they lost the Winter Classic or a Stadium Series game? Because it's not an even playing field. Not every team plays in the Winter Classic.
Yeah.
The warm teams have no chance of playing it unless they have a rivalry with a cold area. And usually warm areas and cold areas don't have a rivalry because they're so far apart.
Right.
And I don't know. I understand why Vegas and the Krakens got their game. They're two young teams. The NHL wants to promote it because Bettman likes those warm weather climates. Warm weather doesn't work for hockey. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta's not been successful. There's other areas, the Carolina Hurricanes and Tampa. One year they win the cup, the next year no one shows up to their rink.
Right. Well, all three of those teams, Tampa, Florida, and Carolina, they were on some sketchy ground for a while there, and it was a lot of infusion of money and
even Florida, they have a good hockey team.
Yeah, they do.
They need to win a cup to keep their team
well,
kind of going.
They've all had good teams, one way or the other, and it seems, especially with Carolina and with Tampa Bay, they just happened to win the cups just when they needed the money the most.
Correct.
Notice that?
Yes.
So you're saying that the Stadium Series will be back next year, and even with the Olympics,
and I'll be glued to my TV.
There you go. That's what we want. Speaking of glued to the TV, many Pittsburgh fans were glued to their TV and going all gaga because Jaromir Jagr made the trip from, where the hell's he at now? Czech. So he's over there in the the KHL? Is that who his team's playing for in that league, the KHL league?
No, I think they're in the Czech Elite League. I think they play.
Okay, so he leaves his team there and he comes over for Jaromir Jagr night here in Pittsburgh. And they retired his jersey and everything, didn't they?
His dad owned that team.
Yeah, well, he's still playing for it.
Yeah.
I think his dad owned assists and everything.
And his dad, he ran the team and bought the team off his dad. His dad passed, obviously passed away a few years ago because his mom was there and his 20-year-old girlfriend was there.
You mean the one that wasn't around when he was playing for the Pats?
Yeah, well, it's good to be king.
It is good to be king. But you know what? While everybody was having a good time here, there was a lot going on behind the scenes that, it might not have all have been peaches and roses like it appeared to be.
I was very shocked that actually Mario was there. For a couple reasons. One, I know Mario was pretty disappointed with the way Fenway Group and him have had some issues, first and foremost. But Mario's classy, so, after I thought about it after the fact, I was like, yeah, Mario wouldn't have missed that because he's a Pittsburgh person. Even though he's born and raised up in Montreal, he's a Pittsburgh person. So he showed up there. He, gave his best, like he always does, whether it's on a pair of skates or on a pair of dress shoes. And I know they were upset with Jagr when he took more money, but you got to understand, Jaromir Jagr he likes to gamble a little bit.
A little bit.
And sometimes, when you gamble like likes to gamble, sometimes you need that contract to help you keep out of meeting the Soprano family.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And, I've had a lot of dealings with Jaromir Jagr. I would like to say he was a hardworking, young cartoon character of a hockey player, we'll just say. He used to come out to the rink all the time. He was good friends with my former GM, Dale Rossetti, God rest Dale's soul. And we had a lot of fun with Jagr, and I got to be pretty close with one of his best friends, which is Martin Straka, which I was very disappointed that he didn't end up coming to Pittsburgh because he's coaching over in I believe the KHL actually. Him and Peter Nedved both coach on the same team. I think they're both assistant coaches for the one team, and he wasn't able to attend the ceremony. But the Penguin alumni really showed up and supported him. And I know, like I said, him maybe going to another team, they might have not held it against him as much, but when he signed that contract with Philly, when he said he was interested in coming back to Pittsburgh, but the money was a big difference. I mean, Yogs was a second-line guy in Philly. He made about $5 million more than what he would have made in Pittsburgh. He had probably been maybe a fourth liner in Pittsburgh, maybe a third liner, maybe did a little bit of power play. And I think Jagr's still being a proud individual. And you saw the film of him practice, and he didn't look like much different than any of the Penguin players besides the top two guys on the team. And I just think, he lived life like yesterday would have been his last day. Whether it was
you have to do that when you have a young girlfriend.
Yes, you definitely have to do. From all the stories that Jagr maybe told at the ceremony or people have graced, the one time we were at Blade Runners and Jagr was a little bit full of himself as a younger kid, and it was when Scotty Bowman was running the team. It was the second year that they won the Cup under Bowman when Badger Bob was sick. And we're in the lobby of Blade Runners in Harmarville because the Penguins used to practice there quite often when they couldn't get the ice at the arena. And Dale Rossetti, the gentleman I talked about before, said to Yogs, and that's when cell phones just started becoming popular. He hands Jagr the cell phone and said, "Hey, Yogs, I want to get a picture. Me and Bob and Marty." He's like, "Okay, who are we going to get to take it?" He goes, "No, we want you to take it." And he was like we shot his best friend, That was one incident. And then the other incident, Yogs loved Kit Kats. Loved them. So me and Rossetti and Paul Coffey sat next to Jaromir Jagr, and Paul was probably the best for Jaromir Jagr. He's the one that created the work habit that Jaromir Jagr had, and he mentioned how Paul would make him get on the bike and basically ride until he vomited, because you got to keep the legs going. Paul was a very good mentor, just like Brian Trottier, just like Jari here, who all kind of molded Jaromir into the player that he is today and was. So, we're sitting there eating Kit Kats, offering some of the players in the locker room, knowing that and we had a couple big bags of Kit Kats. And everyone in the one locker room is eating Kit Kats except Jagr, and he's like, "Where's mine?" I'm like, "I don't get no Kit Kats, Jagr." "What do you mean? You were -3 last night." They were playing the Islanders. That was a game that Barrasso got pulled. He was in a bad mood that day. It was like, "You don't get no Kit Kats." He goes, "What do you mean I get no Kit Kats?" "You were -3. You didn't have any points. -3. He goes, "I don't get no Kit Kats. Why is Tom eating a Kit Kat?" So Tom ignored it, obviously. And Tom was, gave up all 7 goals, I think, that game to the Islanders. He was not in a good humor. But Yogs was just that guy.
Yeah.
Like the one time he wanted to piss Paul off down at the arena. I was talking to Sevy, and Coffey, like, you didn't mess with his gear. And Coffey just got a whole dozen 50-30 Sherwood Stunner. Jagr was using one of Coffey's sticks in practice. Yeah. Coffey wasn't happy. So some of the players figured they'd get Jagr in trouble, and they went and cut, because Paul out of a dozen sticks might only have 2 good sticks out of that dozen. And the other ones he used for practice, but he pulled 2 game sticks. So they ended up taking 6 of Paul's bad sticks, and they cut them very short,
Oh, jeez.
like almost like a mini stick, and put them back into his wooden stall. And Paul comes in and grabs another practice stick because he broke one, and they're all, 3 foot high. Of course, guess who got blamed? Jaromir Jagr, because he was the last one touching Paul's stick.
So do you think Jagr wanted to come back and have this night, or do you think there was pressure from the Fenway group to do it?
I think Jagr was waiting for this day.
Oh, do you?
Very much so, because you could see the enthusiasm. You can see the little boy back into his personality. He loves being in the limelight. I mean, the cameras. He loves it. I mean, he's still like a little boy, even though he's 53 years old. His personality is still like the day I met him, when he came in his blue jean jacket and his blue jeans with his mom rolling his suitcase through Pittsburgh's airport. I think Jagr lives for stuff like that.
Well, that's good. Then,
and I think he had a good time because he stayed an extra.
Yeah,
extra
originally he
few
was supposed
days.
to be in and out.
Yeah, he stayed an extra
He
few
did.
days.
Yeah, he did. He
to
did
show
stick
his,
around.
fiance, I guess now. The Pittsburgh.
No, he's going to marry that girl?
No,
I didn't
I
think
just
so
think he put the
either.
name on it,
Until the next one comes.
Yeah, well, he's been bribed before and just said, go ahead, send the picture off. Remember the Instagram thing with his teammate, 19-year-old girl, 18-year-old girl. She's like, I'm going to blackmail you. And he like, what, you're blackmailing, whatever the exchange rate. It was like $3,500 American. He's like, go ahead, post the picture, honey.
Hey, let's get on to some more serious stuff here in hockey. This is, you got to approach this gingerly, but at the same time, it's something, we need to bring up. For a while there, they came out with something that they called the Me Too movement. And the big thing about the Me Too movement was that you simply must believe all women. All women are telling the truth when they say they've been sexually harassed or bothered, and you must hear them and believe them when they come up with these tales. Well, not surprising when you put down that kind of a mandate. It wasn't too long before a lot of the women were not telling the truth, and a lot of the Me Too cases fell because they could not be substantiated. And as a result, the Me Too movement faltered and is not nearly as strong, if it's even still around, maybe in weird cases. But it seems now to be plaguing the NHL in a pretty big way. The latest was Milan Lucic, and Milan was a player in Boston for a good number of years. They liked him there. He left and went to Canada, had some good years there, and Boston wanted him back. So the way I've gotten this story is that apparently there was a party at the house. Milan's wife calls 911 and claims she's being abused, but the dispatcher, I don't know if he didn't take her serious or what, he put down that she was obviously inebriated. Because I guess she wasn't making any sense on the phone, and it was kind of apparent that she had had one too many. She didn't identify herself, and she wouldn't give any specifics as to what was happening. It sounds like there was an argument, and she threatened him with, taking half of his worth. And now the story I'm getting is that she backed down and refused to testify against him, which a wife can do legally.
Correct.
And my understanding is that her lawyers basically said, look, when you married, you signed a prenup, and it's pretty substantial.
Black and white
And
print.
if you go through with this, you ain't getting anything. Your game plan ain't working. So she figured, well, if I stay, I can live up. But the bottom line is he may be done as far as his career is concerned, and she may have just, as they say, screwed the pooch on the whole thing. Now, do you have something different than that version I have?
That's exactly what
you got too?
Yeah, when I meddled into a little bit of Powell. Now, obviously, he's had a past history of some violence
especially on the ice.
Yes. And again, you can go back to the CT and all that stuff with the brain scan, and when you get hit enough, and you mix alcohol with that situation, it becomes a pretty explosive Molotov cocktail, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're a professional athlete, they don't understand the psychology of things where, they can't. Their competitive nature comes out sometimes.
Yeah.
When the missus pokes the bear,
Yeah.
sometimes you will get violence. Not that it has any right that a male should miss or abuse any woman, period. I mean, because that's not, in my boat, that's not cool at all. Be a better man about it. Walk away. You get into a situation like that, you need to handle. But when there's alcohol involved, it's hard to think pure and thorough, and sometimes you'll have incidents like this. I mean, I basically think both parties are at fault from what I gathered in the reports. But again, there's three sides to the story. There's her side, there's his side, and then there's you
What
put
happened?
it together, and
Yeah.
then that's the truth.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it probably tarnished both people's image, not one person, but
Yeah.
both people.
Yeah.
Whether it was fact or fiction, again, you'll never know because she decided not to file anything.
Yeah.
And obviously, if he was not guilty, he might have pressed charges back, saying, hey, she accused me of defamation of character or something. So they probably were both wrong from what I gathered the information. And it's a valuable lesson to maybe some other hockey players or other professional athletes to learn from this situation, maybe not put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, speaking of which, that brings us around to Team Canada. This makes now, you said there were three, his side, her side, and what really happened. There's actually four, because Bettman sticks his nose in all
Correct.
this stuff too.
But how come Bettman's not sticking his nose in the Team Canada situation?
Well, boy, that's not a bad question. And there have been some updates since our last show on that.
Yeah, the biggest update is I still, again, I'm no attorney, but I still don't understand why the 5 people that are getting accused of this allegation here, they're going to testify together, especially with the first guy getting charged with 2 different accounts.
Yeah.
Are they going to, is it because they can't afford to each have their own attorney or fight it one different way? I mean, my understanding is there's still 3 missing people. Because the first, the second, and the third accounts, there was 8 people involved. So I don't know how it can go from 8 to 5. And number 2, the Canadian government, since Team Canada is part of the Canadian government, believe it or not, they have a lot more issues than just this. They have insurance fraud that they might be dealing with, or medical fraud, because the money that they took to put out some of the fires and in some of the things that are happening behind closed doors in Canada's hockey program.
Yeah.
They're using that money that you pay, like USA Hockey fee, that you pay for your insurance and all that. That money's being used for different court trials and things of that nature also.
Do you think these 3 missing people are protected?
I don't know, unless they were the people that squilled on the whole event,
I got you.
which would make the female who settled in civil, because remember, she did not file this last court.
Right.
It was the police of London.
Right.
So she's being brought back into this after the civil.
Yeah.
And I'm almost wondering is, after this is over with, can she refile another civil?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Because the police opened up a new case.
Wow, that's an interesting. I don't know. Legally, I don't know. I thought you couldn't get charged with the same thing twice.
But she's not technically. She settled her thing, but now the police is bringing up something.
Oh, geez.
I don't know, but I'm just saying. Someone asked me that question, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm no attorney. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I thought once the civil's done, It's done. Like, you couldn't go back after when OJ had that civil and he lost his Heisman and all that. You can't go back after him once the civil's done.
Yeah, I don't know. I know this. I know Bettman, has two things now that have come down the pike, and they're not good for the league. And with everything else he's planning to do for the league, this is not that there's ever a good time for this to happen, but it's not a good time now. And speaking of time, we are taping this just days before the trade deadline comes up for the NHL this year. And of all the things that could happen, it looks like the Penguins, your favorite team, I might point out.
Sal, baby.
And you've got some thoughts.
Yeah, I personally think, I call him Harry Potter, their GM, Cal. It could be Waldo in the picture too, I think he's got a lot of work he needs to do here. I think he's got to, maybe say goodbye to Gino after the season, because I don't think no one's going to take him with his lack of speed right now at the center position. And I don't think he's, in this system, he's not good enough, fast enough to play a wing, which would have been a perfect situation for him. I think Getzel has progressed long enough where health-wise, coming back, he's ready to come back, I think, the 10th. I think he's going to be going somewhere, and I could see Edmonton being one of the teams that would go after him. I could see Florida also going after him. Yeah. And the reason I think Edmonton, first and foremost, they're willing to get rid of their first-round pick and a highly touted prospect, and that's what I heard they want to go with.
Yeah.
I do think Pettersson would be a good trade chip. I do think you need to move Letang or Carlson, which I think more teams would want Letang than Carlson, because I think Letang's in much better shape physically at his age than Carlson is. I think you could move Russ, but for some reason they didn't ask him to move his no move clause, at least as of today. I could see Jari going, or the other kid from Parma Heights, the other goalie. I could see one of them two going. Smith would be a good move to move.
Well, you're talking about a house cleaning.
I think they need a house cleaning because they have no prospects, they have no draft picks, and they have no future because they're 3 stars. There's only one out of the 3 that is playing up to his capability. Now, I think the Penguins think they have a window of opportunity. I think Sid's going to sign another 3-year contract, which would put him into 40.
Yeah.
Which I still think Sid Crosby at 40 could still win a Stanley Cup. But he ain't going to win a Stanley Cup without a number 1 goalie.
Yeah.
And they signed Jari too long.
Yes.
And I also don't think Malkin's going to be there in 3 years. And I think Letang's career is winding down. And I think he could be still a special player in this league. But you got to cut his man minutes down.
Yeah.
And I also think you got to get rid of some contracts still on this team, like Smith, who did nothing for you.
Yeah.
A couple other Graves and a couple of these other guys. Carter's going to be gone shortly. You're going to have to retool. And the best way to retool is get a lot of draft picks and maybe use some of their draft picks and go after younger players that are already on their,
Trouble is, though, if you do that and go after the younger players, you're probably not going to have a strong enough team within that 3-year next contract for Sid to take a cup.
But you're going to because you can't draft 3 number 1 picks and expect them to be in your lineup within 3 years either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I do think they're going to be sellers because they're in 7th place. They're on a 3-game losing streak.
You think they're going to be the most active in the
I don't
trade?
think they're going to be the most active because I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think the people that are running this program as a talent level.
Yeah.
I have issues with. I don't really know what direction they're going because they were supposed to get younger.
Yeah.
And they got older.
Hey, we'd love to talk more hockey with you, but that's really all the time we have for this show. On behalf of Dave over in the control room and Bob, we want to remind you that when it comes to hockey, if you're in the game, you're in the crease.